Hey gang, welcome back to another video. Now as I get started working on our next haunt, there's a few smaller props that I wanted to build. Now of course I'll be remaking our haunted radio, but this week I wanted to do something a little different. A ghostly flashlight that may or may not be speaking to regions beyond. So let's get into it. The concept for this prop is that it would look like a groundskeeper had left a flashlight behind, and that ghosts were using it to communicate with the living. But to pull off the effect, I was going to need a bit of technology in the form of an ESP32 microcontroller and a NeoPixel ring as my light source. As you can see, the ESP32 board is connected to a breakout board, which simply makes connecting all of the wiring that much easier as well as temporary should I decide to use these components for something else in the future. The NeoPixel ring has 12 individually assignable full-color LEDs that will act as my incandescent bulb. But before I can do that, I'll need to solder on the power and data lines. I've already cut my wire to length, but I'll need to strip the ends. Unfortunately, I don't have my wire strippers, but since the gauge of these wires is so thin, I can melt the ends with a lighter and strip off the ends with my fingers. This is a great trick for dealing with small gauge wires, since most strippers have a hard time doing this cleanly. Once the ends of my wires were prepped, I could get to soldering. I grabbed some rosin core solder and my soldering iron and started by tinning the tip of the iron to help with heat conduction. Then I could place the tip of the iron to the underside of my wires to heat them up, and when I press the solder to the wires, it's wicked into the strands. This was repeated for both ends of my wires, and then I could move on to the NeoPixel ring. The terminals on this ring also need to be tinned before I can join the wires to the connectors. So again, I applied solder to the tip of the soldering iron and then to the terminal until each had a nice glob of solder on it. Then I could place the tinned wire against the tinned terminal, and with a quick touch of the soldering iron, the two were joined. Red for power, green for data, and white for ground. With that out of the way, I could start connecting the NeoPixel ring to the microcontroller. Red to the VIN or voltage in, white to GRN or ground, and green to D13 or data port 13. Now that I have the wiring part of this build out of the way, I did a bit of vibe coding to get the base code that will control the board and light. Then I can start modifying it to meet my needs. And here's what it looks like. Now this was pretty close to what I wanted, but needed a bit more dialing in. So I jumped into the code and made some alterations until it performed as I'd imagined. Now that I had the light operating as anticipated, I could get to installing it into a flashlight. After a bit of eBay and marketplace searching, I found this Everready Big Jim Model 101 flashlight. I chose this one because stylistically it fits with how I imagine the rest of our haunt will look. It's also big enough to be eye-catching, but not so big that it becomes distracting. Normally, it would have a rectangular 6-volt lantern battery hanging off the bottom, but I'll get to making a replacement for that a bit later since I'll need it to hide the controller board. In the meantime, I need to remove the old glass bulb so that I can set the LEDs in place. I had really hoped this would be a glass lens and a screw-in bulb in the back, but unfortunately it's a single-piece bulb, so I'll need to come up with a replacement for that as well. But in the meantime, I removed the light and any unnecessary wires and threaded the new wires through the flashlight body. Then I plugged in my glue gun and will add a bit of hot glue along the terminal connections of the NeoPixel ring to protect it from shorting out if it comes into contact with the solid metal flashlight body. And I'll use a bit more to hold the ring in position. Once that was fixed in place, I grabbed a plastic takeout container lid and cut it to size as a temporary lens cover and could reattach the bezel to the flashlight. I also connected the wires back to the breakout board and could see what the light looked like now that it was coming from its new permanent location. With the electrical and technical parts complete, I can get to building out the rest of the flashlight. Now I'd thought that I'd be able to use something off the shelf for the fake battery box, but nothing I found was the right size. So I hopped into my 3D modeling software and modeled the battery based on specs of the original, and then I could send them to my printer. While I waited for the parts to print, I had an idea for an Easter egg to add to this prop. Since the lantern battery pack for this style of flashlight typically has a graphic that wraps around it, I thought I'd follow suit and make a custom one of my own. Prior to being a prop maker, I was a graphic artist, so I used those skills to create a Van Oaks version of the Ever-Ready logo in Adobe Illustrator, as well as the basic color block layout for the wrap in Photoshop. But I wanted to try adding in all of the wear and grime digitally rather than practically. So I did a bit of Google image searching for textures and rust patterns and got down to overlaying and blending them, one on top of the other, until I had the look I was after. Then it was just a matter of adding in all the smaller details that I was able to find based on vintage product photos from online auction sites. When I had finalized the design, I decided I wanted to try something different, so I sent a text to my friend and fellow maker Neil at Savco Industries and asked him to print the design onto outdoor-rated vinyl so that it could withstand the elements. Now I know this is total overkill for this prop, but since this prop was going to be more of a feature, I figured I'd try something new while also getting a chance to work on a project with a friend. Now at this point, my 3D prints were complete and I could cut down my graphic and get to applying it to the print. With a razor blade and a ruler at the ready, and a definite preference to the weathered version of this decal, I trimmed it down to its final size and then used some painter's tape to hold it in place while I checked the alignment. This took me a few tries to get it just right, since there were some elements that needed to line up with the different edges of the battery box. But once it looked like it was in the right position, I peeled the backing paper away and got to sticking it in place. Once the decal was permanently in position, I could get to assembling the rest of the box. So I grabbed some 5-minute epoxy and used it to attach the box top to the box body, since I won't need access to both sides of the box once this prop is finished. And when I'd coated the edge of the box and the lid, I stuck them together and let them cure. While I was waiting for the epoxy to set up, I realized that it would be easier for future repairs if I added some Wago nuts between the LEDs and the controller board. I also added in wires to power the controller, since USB power isn't ideal, and eventually I want to run this off my 12-volt system, which will require me to use a voltage converter since the ESP32 board needs only 5.5 volts. But that's a problem for another time. For now, I'll just use my adjustable power supply so that I can see how this looks fully assembled. So there you have it. I'm really happy with how this turned out. The random and unpredictable nature of the light programming, plus the overall look of it, just exceeded my expectations. Most of that is thanks to the decal assist from my friend Neil. But overall, the best part of this is that I've got 2 props done for next year's haunt. That's going to do it for this one. Be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. But most importantly, go make something.